DNA of world's oldest natural mummy unlocks secrets of Ice Age tribes in the Americas. The legal battle over a 10,600-year-old ancient skeleton called the, quote, spirit cave mummy, end quote, has ended after advanced DNA sequencing found it was related to a Native American tribe. The revelation has been published in Science Today as part of a wide-ranging international study that genetically analyzed the DNA of a series of famous and controversial ancient remains across North and South America, including Spirit Cave, the Lovelock skeletons, the Lagoa Santa remains, and Inca mummy, and the oldest remains in Chilean Patagonia. The study also looked at the second oldest mummy remains from Trail Creek Cave in Alaska, a 9,000-year-old milk tooth from a young girl. Scientists sequenced 15 ancient genomes spanning from Alaska to Patagonia and were able to track the movements of the first humans as they spread across the Americas at astonishing speed during the Ice Age, and also how they interacted with each other in the following millennia. The team of academics not only discovered that the Spirit Cave remains, the world's oldest natural mummy, was a Native American, but they were able to dismiss a long-standing theory that a group called Paleo-Americans existed in North America before Native Americans. The groundbreaking research also discovered clues of a puzzling Australasian genetic signal in the 10,400-year-old Lagoa Santa remains from Brazil, revealing a previously unknown group of early South Americans, but the Australasian link left no genetic trace in North America. It was described by one of the scientists as extraordinary evidence of an extraordinary chapter in human history. Professor Esk Willerslev, who holds positions both in St. John's College, University of Cambridge, and the University of Copenhagen, and led the study, said, quote, Spirit Cave and Lagoa Santa were very controversial because they were identified as so-called Paleo-Americans based on craniometry. It was determined that the shape of their skulls was different to current-day Native Americans. Our study proves that Spirit Cave and Lagoa Santa were actually genetically closer to contemporary Native Americans than to any other ancient or contemporary group sequenced to date, end quote. The Lagoa Santa remains were retrieved by Danish explorer Peter W. Lund in the 19th century, and his work led to his Paleo-American hypothesis based on cranial morphology, and theorized the famous group of skeletons could not be Native Americans. But this new study disproves that theory, and the findings were launched under embargo by Professor Willerslev with the representatives from the Brazilian National Museum in Rio on Tuesday, November 6, 2018. He added, quote, looking at the bumps and shapes of the head does not help you understand the true genetic ancestry of the population. We have proved that you can have people who look very differently but are closely related, end quote. The scientific and cultural significance of the Spirit Cave remains, which were found in 1940 in a small rocky alcove in the Great Basin Desert, was not properly understood for 50 years. The preserved remains of the man in his 40s were initially believed to be between 1,500 and 2,000 years old, but during the 1990s, new textile and hair testing dated the skeleton at 10,600 years old. That's the last ice age, as you can understand. The Fallon Paiute Shoshone tribe, a group of Native Americans based in Nevada near Spirit Cave, claimed cultural affiliation with the skeletons and requested immediate repatriation of the remains under the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act. The request was refused because the ancestry was disputed, the tribe sued the federal government, and the lawsuit pitted tribe leaders against anthropologists who argued the remains provided invaluable insight into North American earliest inhabitants and should continue to be displayed in a museum. The deadlock continued for 20 years until the tribe agreed that Professor Wurlerslev could carry out genome sequencing on DNA extract from the Spirit Cave for the first time. Professor Wurlerslev said, quote, "I assured the tribe that my group would not do the DNA testing unless they gave permission, and it was agreed that if Spirit Cave was genetically a Native American, the mummy would be repatriated to the tribe," end quote. The team painstakingly extracted DNA from the petrous bone from the inside of the skull, proving that the skeleton was an ancestor of present-day Native Americans. Spirit Cave was returned to the tribe in 2016, and there was a private reburial ceremony earlier this year that Professor Wurlerslev attended, and details have just been released. The geneticist explained, quote, "What became very clear to me was that this was a deeply emotional and deeply cultural event. The tribe have real feelings for Spirit Cave, which as a European it can be hard to understand, but for us it would very much be like burying our mother, father, sister, or brother." Quote, "We can all imagine what it would be like if our father or mother was put in an exhibition and they had that same feeling for Spirit Cave. It has been a privilege to work with them." The tribe were kept informed throughout the 2-year project, and 2 members visited the lab in Copenhagen to meet the scientists. They were present when all of the DNA sampling was taken. A statement from the Falan Paiute Shoshone tribe said, "The tribe has had a lot of experience with members of the scientific community, mostly negative. However, there are a handful of scientists that seem to understand the tribe's perspective, and Eske Willerslev was one of them. He took the time to acquaint himself with the tribe, kept us well informed of the process." The man taken from his final resting place in Spirit Cave is our Native American ancestors, they said. The genome of the Spirit Cave skeleton has wider significance because it not only settled in legal and cultural dispute between the tribe and the government, it also helped reveal how ancient humans moved and settled across the Americas. The scientists were able to track the movement of populations from Alaska to as far south as Patagonia. They often separated from each other and took their chances traveling in small pockets of isolated groups. Dr. Meltzer from the Department of Anthropology, Southern Methodist University, Dallas, said, "A striking thing about the analysis of Spirit Cave and Lagoa Santa is their close genetic similarity, which implies their ancestral population traveled through the continent at astonishing speed. That's something we've suspected due to the archaeological findings, but it's fascinating to have it confirmed by the genetics." These findings imply that the first peoples were highly skilled at moving rapidly across an utterly unfamiliar and empty landscape. They had a whole continent to themselves, and they were traveling great distances at breathtaking speed, end quote. The study also revealed surpassing traces of Australasian ancestry in ancient South American Native Americans, but no Australo-Asian genetic link was found in North America Native Americans. Dr. Victor Moreno Mayar from the Center for Geogenetics, University of Copenhagen, and first author of the study, said, quote, "We discovered the Australasian signal was absent in Native American prior to the Spirit Cave and Laguna Santa population split, which means groups carrying this genetic signal were either already present in South America when Native Americans reached the region, or Australasian groups arrived later. That this signal has not been previously documented in North America implies that an earlier group possessing it had disappeared or later arrived group passing through North America without leaving any genetic trace," end quote. Dr. Peter de Barros Damgaard from the Center for Geogenetics, University of Copenhagen, explained why scientists remain puzzled but optimistic about the Australasian ancestry signal in South America. He explained, quote, "If we assume that the migratory route that brought this Australasian ancestry to South America went through North America, either the carriers of the genetic signal came in as structured population and went straight to South America, where they later mixed with the new incoming groups, or they entered later. At the moment, we cannot resolve which of these might be correct, leaving us facing extraordinary evidence of an extraordinary chapter in human history, but we will solve this puzzle, end quote. The population history during the millennia that followed initial settlement was far more complex than previously thought. The peopling of the Americas has been simplified as a series of north to south population splits with little or no interaction between groups after their establishment. But the new genome analysis presented in the study has shown that around 8,000 years ago, Native Americans were on the move again, but this time from Mesoamerica into both North and South America. Researchers found traces of this movement in the genomes of all present-day indigenous populations in South America, for which genomic data is available to date. Dr. Moreno Mayar added, quote, "The older genomes in our study not only taught us about the first inhabitants of South America, but also served as a baseline for identifying a second stream of genetic ancestry which arrived from Mesoamerica in recent millennia, and that this is not evident from the archaeological record. These Mesoamerican peoples mixed with the descendants of the earliest South Americans and gave rise to the most contemporary groups in the region." This is by the University of Cambridge, Journal Reference Science, and it's on phys.org. Kindly support my Patreon account, since that's the only way I can continue what you like seeing on this channel. Thank you. You'll find it in the description box below.